Hi everyone, Leslie here. I do have a journal to show you, but you might actually recognise it because this was actually a custom order. The lady saw me do one of my other Flower Fairy journals and asked if I could do her one. So it's very similar to the one I did previously. It is slightly different. There are, because it's impossible to do them exactly the same, obviously. So it is slightly different from the other one, so I'm going to do a quick flip through. It is a Flower Fairy journal, Edith Holden one. The attachment closure isn't attached, it's just loose ribbon that comes off. This is a big one, nice chunky one. It measures about 10.5 inches, 27 centimeters down. It's just under 8 inches wide, about 20 centimeters. The spine is about just over 2.5 inches, roughly 7 centimeters. It has 3 signatures in, and I think it's a total of 84 pages front and back, but it is quite a chunky one. It's a hardback cover, card cover, and it's covered in kind of a waterproof type fabric. You know, you make tablecloths out of them, the wipe down tablecloths. It's that kind of fabric that's covered, and the front is decorated with an image of the Lavender Fairy, and it has a fabric stamped label that says journal and is decorated with paper flowers. I think the paper flowers, although they were purple on the other journal, I think they were a different layout. I think I had a big purple one here, but I didn't have any big purple ones left, so there's a big white one and other little white purple ones. So when we open it, on the inside front cover, I will try and keep it in camera because it is quite big. There is a large front pocket. This is the Traveller's Joy Fairy, and that's being decorated with a bit of fabric and music paper. I have included actually in this one corresponding journal cards to each fairy of their original image and their song. So in this one there's her song. Where's her original image? Should be in there. It's just, yeah, it's fallen down a bit. So there's her original image and her song, and they go in that one. And then on the first page we have the Crabapple Fairy. So this is the image from the book along with these, and then the Edith Holden image is at the top. So I tried to do it so it looks like she's catching the apples in her dress. And there is her original image and her song. Then we have some tea-dyed paper. I don't know why that's in there, it shouldn't be. Some tea-dyed paper and some journal spot on the back of some graph paper that's been tea-dyed. Then we have a cluster of the Dog Violet Fairy, tea-dyed paper. Tea-dyed paper. This is some purple handmade paper that's got some like leaves and rose petals in it that I included. Here is some music paper with a fussy cut image of the Hazelnut Fairy. On my original one I lost the label of the Hazelnut Fairy, but I made sure I kept it this time and added the label. Here we have the other side of the music paper. Here's a small pocket made out of some ledger paper. This has the Zana Fairy on. Now in the original one I didn't have more than one image of her, so I didn't include her card and song, but for this one I managed to include it. So there is her song and her original image. This is a fussy cut image, and they go into the pocket. And on the other side there is a little tag tuck, which was made out of one of the black and white images that were dividing up the chapters in the Flower Fairy book. And obviously she was just a black and white image, so she didn't come with a corresponding poem, so I've included the Sweet Pea Fairies for this one. There's their image and their song. They just tuck behind there. We have the Acorn Fairy. This is where I have taken the image from the Flower Fairy book, and then I fussy cut it in a way so that it would fit in with the Edith Holden page. So this is part of the Flower Fairy book, these bits, and this bit and this bit. And then this is the Edith Holden page. That's part of the Flower Fairy book, that's part of the Flower Fairy book. But this here and these acorns here are, and the branch that he sat on is the Edith Holden book. There is his song and his original image, and you can see how those are part of it there, but these aren't. So yeah. And then here is the centre of the first signature, and this one is the Snowdrop Fairy. So I've done 2 CD envelopes on this one. This one has some fussy cut snowdrops from the Edith Holden book, and that flips out and has a journal spot on the back with more fussy cut images. And inside this one is her song, the Snowdrop Fairy song. And I have backed all of the journal cards. And then on this side, this one doesn't flip out. This is all fussy cut from the Edith Holden book. And inside is the Snowdrop Fairy. That one slips in. And then her label's just been decorated with some tea bags. Then we have, I did have to make some patchwork paper up because it's a bigger book, bigger than A5. So it's just where I take strips of paper and I sew them onto a sheet of tea dyed paper to the size that I want. It's just a way of getting the bigger pages that you want. This is the other side of the pocket made out of ledger paper, and it's got a cluster on of the Bird's Foot Trefoil Fairy, and in there I have added, this is the only cluster that has it cards and with it. So there's the original image and there's her song. And on the other side there's a stamped image. It is the other side of the music paper. This has a fussy cut image on it as well, and this is the Herb Robert Fairy. Other side of the music paper, here's your handmade purple paper with the rose petals in. Oh look, you've got a nice selection of rose petals on that side. They stand out really well. And then on this side I've got a double bottom pocket. This has been made out of corrugated card for the Gauze Fairies. So I've done a small pocket on the front using the image of the Gauze Fairies, and in that pocket I've put their image and song. So there's their images and song. And then in the larger pocket, I obviously couldn't put their image and song because I've already included it in this one. So I included the Winter Jasmine Fairy. I mainly picked this one because he had a yellow flower and I just thought it went in with the gauze being yellow. On the next page there is some more tea-dyed paper. There's the other side of the graph paper, and again, so there's still plenty of writing space in this journal. Here we have the Daffodil Fairy, and this is the Edith Holden page, and the Flower Fairy is fussy cut out. And this is also a double pocket, so in the front pocket I've put her song, and then in the back pocket there is her, oh sorry it's catching because it's too big for my desk, is the image, her original image. So the image one goes in the back pocket, and then her song slips into the front pocket. And that's the first signature. Again, they are small signatures. There's 3, but the reason they're small is because the pockets have bulked it out quite a lot, and also because there's 2 journal cards in virtually every pocket, that also bulks it out a lot. Tea-dyed paper. On this side we have a side pocket of the Harebell Fairy. Again, the Edith Holden page with the harebells, and then the Flower Fairy fussy cut on the top, and there's her song and her image. Here we have some music paper. There's another cluster of the Strawberry Fairy. Don't think I included the Strawberry Fairy in the original one. Here we have some, what is this paper? It's like a, it's almost like a tracing paper, but it's a bit thicker, so it's quite crinkly. This is a flip out, and on the front I've done a pocket of the Candy Tuft Fairy. Again, I don't think I had her images to put inside the pocket, but I did this time, so I have included her image and her song. And on the other side of there is just a journal spot, some tea-dyed paper. On this side we have a top pocket, and this is of the Silver Birch Fairy. So this is the Edith Holden page with the little birds on. Then I fussy cut the Silver Birch Fairy out and put it on because this is the Silver Birch tree here. And I also added a couple of charms to this one. There's a flower charm and a leaf charm. And there's her original image and her song. Now, I did in the original include a couple of book pages. Obviously, I didn't have the same book pages to include, so I've included different book pages this time. This is one of them. It just lists different flowers that you can find in England, I think they are. And on the other side, I included a fussy cut image of the Primrose Fairy. On this side, there is a, this is an envelope, a large envelope, and on the back of the envelope, I've put a little notebook pocket. So it is a notebook with some paper in. It's got some lined paper and some tea-dyed paper in there. So it's a little notebook. And on the front there is the Greater Knapweed Fairy. So it's made out of an Edith Holden page, and then I fussy cut the Flower Fairy and put her on top. And in the back is her card. Now, to reduce the amount of bulk on the envelope, I've only done single cards for the envelopes, but I have included her original image and her song on the card. So you still get the song and the image, it's just on one card instead of 2, and that just slides in behind the notebook. And then on the other side of the envelope, I have done the rush grass and cotton grass fairies. This is just a fussy cut image that's been collaged onto the envelope, and inside the envelope is a single card, again with the image and the song on. And then there's tea dyed paper. Here we have the centre of the signature, and this one has two pockets, a bottom one and a top one. In the original one I did these out of handmade paper, but I ran out of handmade paper and I looked everywhere for some more and just couldn't find any, so I've made them out of music paper instead. We have the Blackberry Fairy. So this part here, the fairy is actually part from the Flower Fairy book, and these blackberries are here, and the red leaves, and then this here and the green leaves, and this bit here is all fussy cut from the Edith Holden page and been put together, so it looks like she's sitting in the bush. And there is her song, and here is her original image, so you can see how this is part of the book page, but this isn't. And then on this side we've got the Hawthorne Fairy. Now with this, the fairy is cut out of the book, but the rest of it, the whole branch, and that is from the Edith Holden page, so the only part is the fairy. And there's his song, and there is him. As you can see, it is literally, I don't know if you can see, let me slide it over a bit, it is just him that's been cut out, and this is the Edith Holden page. It's quite hard for me to film these big books because my tripod only goes so far high. Then on the other side there is some tea dyed paper. Now this is totally different from the original. I did not do the Daisy Fairy on this side. I did a different fairy, but I didn't have their image. So on this one I've done the Daisy Fairy. This is from like the little daisy and the butterfly, and I'm trying to think what this is called, but I can't remember what it's called. The fairy's in the book somewhere, so I'll notice. And there's the Daisy Fairy from the book, and then her card is also a single card again. It's, there you go, there's her image and her song. Oh, it's going to bug me now what this stuff is called. It's so common in England. It almost grows like weeds with the daisies. I can't remember what it's called now. And on the other side, I've made a little tag tuck. This is the Elm Tree Fairy. I fussy cut the Elm Tree Fairy out, sat on his tree, and just collaged it to a tag. In there is his song, and there's his original image. I actually prefer the tree fairies to the flower fairies. This is the other side of the book page. I've just added some fabric ruffle here with some stitching on it. Why did I do that? I did that because that's where the fold of the book page was. You know, the centre of the book page. And so it was a bit of a weak spot and I didn't like the look, so I covered it. You might be able to see it on the other side. Yeah, there. And you see that's where the page originally folded in half, so I covered it. And then I've put a fussy cut image on this side of the Cowslip Fairy, and this is one that I did lose the label to, but it's the Cowslip Fairy. Here is just some patchwork paper. You can see better how I attach the strips on this side to make it bigger. And then on the other side, we've got the Poppy Fairy. So the Poppy Fairy is a flip out. I wanted to include her cards though. So what I've done is I've clipped them to the flip out with an altered paper clip, which is just a poppy cut out of an Edith Holden book and stuck to the paper clip. There's her original image and her song. And this is her on the flip out. Again, I did a little image of her because the big fairy just covered up too much of the Edith Holden page. So she's a little fairy in the bottom corner of the Edith Holden page. And that flips out. And on the other side, it has a small pocket. This one is also different. This is the Scarabus Fairy. I couldn't find an image of a Scarabus in the Edith Holden book I had in the original, so I used a yellow flower here, but I did find this, which is an actual Scarabus image from the Edith Holden book, so I included that, so I swapped it over. And then fussy cut the fairy out and put it on the edge. And there's her image and card. So there are some slight differences in this, which I think is nice because you kind of want junk journals to be unique, don't you? You don't really want there to be lots of copies of them. So, yeah, although it is generally, most of it's the same, there are some subtle differences. And then under there also is just the other side of the patchwork paper. This is the other side of the tracing paper. On this one, I have attached an envelope, a distressed envelope, and we've got the Dandelion Fairy here with a little bit of his poem. And in there, there is his original image and his song. They just slip into the envelope. And here is some music paper. Again, I just fussy cut out one of the black and white images from the book and just stuck it to the paper to break it up a bit. Music paper, some patchwork paper, and here it is, it's Clover. That's what it was called, Clover. So here is the actual Clover Fairy, but this is the white Clover. There was pink Clover on the other one. So here's the daisy and the white clover from the Edith Holden book, and then there's the Clover Fairy from the Flower Fairy book. And this is also a flip out, so I've attached these cards again with another paper clip that I have put a pink paper flower on, which is quite cute. And clipped to her is her song and her original image. And when you flip that out, there's just a little pocket on the back, which is a butterfly from an Edith Holden page, and I included a tag of one of the black and white images from the book. And then these just go on there, and then you clip it at the top to hold them in place. And that's the second signature. Then we have some tea dyed paper, and on this side we've got a banner tuck with the Buttercup Fairy. So this is from the Edith Holden page, and this is the Flower Fairy, and there is her song and her original image. So again, and this is the second book page, couldn't include the same book pages, so this time I have included an Edith Holden page. So this is just a book page from the Edith Holden book of some flowers and grasses, and on the other side there is some of the Birdfoot Trifold Fairy flower. So at the beginning there was that cluster with the trifold, the Birdfoot Trifold Fairy. This is the flower in the Edith Holden book. And then here we've got a little paper bag, which I have put some slides on. This is also different from the original. In the original it was just one long slide, but in this one I've done two separate slides. of butterflies, and the Chicory Fairy is sat looking. So in the slide there is a tag, but it's of the butterflies. So I've kind of tried to make it so that when the tag is in there, they kind of line up. I got it as close as I could. It's not 100%, but it's practically there. It's not easy. One day I will find a better way of doing it. And then inside the paper bag album is the Chicory Fairy's original image and her song. And that's inside the paper bag. Here I have done a corner tuck from the purple handmade paper with the rose petals, and what I did was punched an image of a flower onto the paper and then sewn it in hand by hand, sewn it by hand with some hessian. I had some hessian fabric and I pull the threads out and use them to sew the image. So it's used with like a hessian string. And in there I have included this fairy, which is the Spindleberry Fairy. So it's the image and the song. They go in there. Then we have some tea-dyed paper. This is some thick kind of tissue paper. And then here we have another top pocket, and this is of the Pear Blossom Fairy, and it's got some lace on it. So this is the Pear Blossom from the Edith Holden page, and then I've cut out the Flower Fairy and kind of lined them up so it looks like he's sitting on that branch. And there's his song and his original image. So yeah, you can see I've just cut out this bit here and lined it up. And then there's some tea-dyed paper. Here we have, this is it's an envelope on the other side, but I've attached it on this side to make a pocket. I have decorated it with some, I don't know if that's in line, I hope it's in line, but it's some dried flowers and a wax seal of a rose. They are quite delicate, but they are glued down quite well, so they shouldn't fall off. And in there I've included the Sweet Pea Fairies. So there's the image and her song. I did those ones because I thought the pink kind of matched up a bit. And they go in there. And then on the other side is the centre of the last page. And on this side we have a envelope that's been decorated with the Honeysuckle Fairy. Again, this is from the Edith Holden page, and this is the Flower Fairy. And that flips out, and I put some of the song on the back, just a bit of the song on the back to decorate it and break it up. And in the envelope is his original image and his song. And then on the other side of the centre, I have done a belly band of the Foxglove Fairy using an Edith Holden page. There's the Flower Fairy fussy cut out, and then I've just decorated it with a button and a little doily. And in there is the original image and his song. On the other side you've got some more patchwork paper. Here is the other side of the tissue paper that has another cluster on of the Toad Flux Fairy. Tissue, tea-dyed paper. This side we've got another side pocket of the Rose Bay Willow Herb Fairy. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Rose Bay Willow Herb Fairy. So this is the Edith Holden page here of the Rose Bay, and here's the fairy. And this one I've decorated with some paper flowers. Also has a little tag on it. just been decorated with some paper flowers and a little specimen label underneath. And there is the song and her original image. And on the other side we have the paper bag, and on this side we have done, it's exactly the same as the other one with the double specimen cards. This one's with the Marigold Fairy. She's looking up. Inside again, I've tried to line up the butterflies on that tag. This one didn't seem to line up as well. Hold on, because the tie from the other tags is in the way. But I've got it the best I could, to be honest. And inside the bag is your original Marigold Fairy and her song. I really do hope this is in camera okay. I kind of feel like I'm over to one side too much. This is the other side of the Edith Holden page. And on the other side, the reason I picked this Edith Holden page was for the irises on this side. Because here I did a bottom tuck using the image of the Iris Fairy against the iris page from Edith Holden, and in there is her song and her original image. Well, the original image is exactly the same because I just used the whole page as the tuck, and they tuck in. And then there's the tea dyed paper, and then on the very last page I have the fabric pocket of the Fuchsia Fairy. This one actually was not included in the original, the Iris Fairy. I didn't have her image. I think I used the Librarian Fairy on that page, but I decided to use the Iris one because it matched in. So that's also different. And this is a fabric pocket of the Fuchsia Fairy where I copied the image onto some fabric transfer paper and then ironed it onto a piece of fabric. Can't get my words today. And there is her original image, and there is her song, and they go inside the fabric pocket. And then on the inside back cover we have a pocket exactly the same as the front cover. This one's the Slow Fairy, but it's just a big pocket basically, and inside is her original image and her song. So yeah, now like I say, this is a custom order, so I won't be listing this one in my shop obviously because it's already sold, but yeah, I hope you like it. Like I say, it's very similar to the original one. There are some slight differences. But yeah, I'd love to hear your feedback on it. As always, I do like to hear your comments, and please do subscribe and like, share, all the usual. So thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.